Hello and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host Owen James, the channel that brings you Rangers every single day, guys. To make sure you never miss out on all the free content, please obviously smash that sub, ring that notification bell, and give the video a like. Well, new Rangers CEO Patrick Stewart has sat down and spoken to Rangers TV today, and has spoken about his job, spoken about the future, spoken about how he thinks things are at the moment. And it's kind of given a clear vision of where things are, how things will work, and what he believes, obviously, coming into the club. And I think, rather than sit here and kind of, I could recite the whole interview to you, of course. I've watched it about 3 times now. Check out the interview, check it out on Rangers TV. It's free to watch, obviously, on the YouTube channel, so give it a check out. But I think, looking at it, as an outsider, in terms of not part of the club, in terms of not part of the executive committee, obviously, as much as I would love to be, I think Stewart got the tone exactly right in the interview, in the way that he spoke to obviously a friendly interviewer. He spoke very much about the fact that he'd been at Manchester United, he'd been in football for over 20 years. He'd spent 18 of those years with Manchester United, obviously. So, he has that big club background, having worked with one of the biggest clubs in world football. And I think what was interesting, he talked in, I know people say things because it's the right thing to say to create the right impressions. But he spoke of having the goosebumps of walking into Ibrox for the first time, about the impact of the club, or the impact of the historic ground, the impact of the fan base, and the size of this club. And one thing, whatever you think of what he said, whether you genuinely believe that is a genuine reaction, or whether you believe that is just him saying it because he wants to carry favour with the fans, that depends how much of a cynic you are. I think the biggest thing you take from that is he gets it. He understands. He gets what it is to be Rangers CEO. He understands what Rangers are as a club. He understands the size of the club. He understands the history of the club, and he understands, what this club is about. And it's about winning trophies. Something that he remarked on a number of times throughout the interview, speaking as well, obviously, the fact that he didn't really want to dwell too long on the cup final defeat to that lot from across the city. So, that was interesting in that interview, and I think it's refreshing, isn't it, that someone who's come in, is hitting the ground running from day one, and understanding the club and understanding the aspirations of the fans in terms of taking this club back to the top. And that was sort of a theme that kind of ran through the interview, that he gets that this club is about winning trophies, it's about putting trophies in the cabinet, it's about moving the club forward. And, he talked about the fact that there is still a way to go there. He talked about solid foundations, the club, and yes, he acknowledged that we haven't got everything right, but there are ways forward, and things are moving in the right direction. Which, I think there's a much more positive feel around the club these days. Given the appointment of the new CEO, the new chairman's in place, Niels Coppen got the promotion, the football on the pitch is looking better. There is a more positive aspect there. No matter what you think of the result of the weekend, and that's something we've got to take forward and really run with if we're to move this club forward. Patrick Stewart really did also clear up the difference in roles between himself and Fraser Thornton, the club chairman. He talked about the fact that he is an executive CEO and Fraser Thornton is a non-executive chairman. Now, a lot of you might think, so what? What does that non mean? Well, apparently, what it is clear is that Fraser Thornton will take more of a backward step. He will not have as much of a day-to-day influence over the club. He will be there, if advice is needed, or he needs to get involved, or he needs to talk, or he needs to do what, he needs to get involved in the running of the club. He will be there on that non-executive basis. Whereas Patrick Stewart, excuse me, is the CEO. He's the executive CEO, so he will run the club on a daily basis. He will go into Ibrox, into Ockenham, and he will be the man running the club on a day-to-day basis. Within his remit, he was quite clear about that. He says within the remit that the board give him. And I certainly hope, from what that is said, and that reminder that it's from within the remit, I think we certainly all hope that the board kind of take a backward step now and allow Stewart to run the club, because this is a guy who's got over 20 years experience in running football clubs, and been involved in the running of football clubs, including 18 years involved in the running of one of the biggest clubs in world football. So, you've got to kind of take it in terms of the fact that give the football men the power, let them make the decisions, let them make the day-to-day decisions on the running of the club. Keep your fingers out, basically, Park family, keep your noses out. I think that is the biggest, kind of message you can kind of take from that. Not that that's what Stewart said, because he values his job at the end of the day. Patrick Stewart did a talk about the fact that him and Fraser Thornton had been in close contact. They had regular meetings. There was an understanding there. Apparently he was going to meet with him again today to kind of discuss where we're going. So it's refreshing that there is a clear kind of, relationship between Patrick Stewart and the chairman, and that Stewart, has that understanding of what his role is, and hopefully now he can take that role and he can run with it and he can really push this club forward. Which is what we need. We need a man with a vision at the top. We need a man who has direction. We need a man who knows how to obviously, raise income revenue streams, look at different sponsorship opportunities, look at different ways of bringing the money into the club, look at better marketing of the club, look at better strategies at developing the transfer policy within the club. This is the kind of guy we need, and I think Stewart has that vision. From this is what I'm taking from what he said in his interview. He talked about the women's team as well. He obviously has that remit over the whole of the club, not just the men's team. And I think he spoke as well about the men's team having more positivity around at the moment. Obviously, winning games in the SPL, scoring goals, keeping clean sheets. So it's clear that he's been keeping his hand in as regards the team and watching the team on a consistent basis. So look, that's all good. I mean, that's all positive from the house, and I get that from an 8-minute interview you can only take what is asked, and he is going to be asked friendly questions at the end of the day. He is going to be asked questions that that are not hand grenades, which is fair enough. It'd be interesting to see, obviously, if he was interviewed by media outside of Rangers TV, would the questions be the same? And if fans asked him questions, would they be as friendly? I doubt it. He spoke as well about the fact that he wants to communicate with the fans and keep that sort of relationship up between the CEO and the fans that James Bisgrove had started to develop. But he said, that wouldn't be an every single day, every single week kind of relationship, because he said that he's sure the fans would want him to run the club, which is true. We do. We want to run the club and run the club to the best of his abilities. So look, this guy. I was impressed with what he had to say. If you're taking this as a job interview in terms of him talking about what his role is, talking about what he intends to do, talking about the plans he has for the club, then it's all very positive. And I know you can only get so much from what people say. Words mean one thing, actions mean another, and I understand that. And his actions will be the thing that at the end of the day that he is judged on, rather than just on what he said in this 8.5-minute interview, or 6.5 minutes. I can't remember how long it was now off the top of my head, but it's on Rangers TV, so give it a watch, guys. Certainly have a look at it and let me know your thoughts on it. I'd love to know what you thought about what Patrick had to say in this interview. And he spoke very well. And I think the clearest thing for me is that he has an understanding. He has a kind of grasp on what it is to be Rangers, and I think that is one of the things we always want, isn't it? In the people who run our football club, it is an understanding of what it is. What Rangers means to people, and as Sir Walter said, to some people this is their entire way of life. And I'm not saying for a minute that to Patrick Stewart this needs to become his entire way of life. That's not the case. But he does seem to have an understanding of the club, of its importance, obviously of the fan base as well, and what the fan base desires and wants from this club. He confirmed as well that he'd spoken to the SFA as regards the non-awarding of the penalty in the final, and he said that he would push for a response from the SFA, and he was interested to see what they had to say. And obviously the club will respond in due course to anything the SFA say. I'm sure that could be a very interesting discussion between Patrick Stewart and those at the SFA, in particular obviously Willie Collum and the Referees Association, and obviously Neil Doncaster. But look, this is a positive, another positive for the club, another vision, another guy who's come in and hopefully will be given the time, will be given the opportunity, will be given the freedom to develop his role and to lead this club forward. After all, we need football people running this club, not the board. I mean, as Simon Jordan and Graham Souness said, the people at the top, the Rangers board, are not football people. They don't get the game. They don't have a football brain between them, I think Simon Jordan said. So, I think it is good that obviously that Patrick Stewart is here, and I hope that the board certainly give him the independence to make decisions. But overall, positive interview, guys. Let me know what you think if you've given it a watch. If you haven't given it a watch yet, give it a watch, and then let me know what you think of what Patrick had to say. Right, thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. As always, please, on the way out, smash the like, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, drop a share, do all that fantastic stuff. And remember always, we are the people.